just a little bit longer. Our chairman is supposed to be on his way. Hopefully he'll be here directly pretty soon.
Uh-oh. Well, she's probably sitting in traffic too.
She comes from that way too. Well, I mean, she comes from.
Okay.
I mean, we can go, you got.
Well, we have a pretty full board, so I think we can go ahead and fire it up. At this time, we will call the March 26th, 2026 Walton County Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting to order. If you would, please stand as we have our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Charlie?
Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity to live in this great nation, in this great county. Please guide us and watch over us here tonight to do what's best for our citizens and our county. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Got 6 without Margaret. Are there any announcements that need to be made?
The only announcement is, and I mentioned this last time, the Curry variance is up on appeal before the circuit court. We filed the reply to the order show cause on Monday, so that'll.
Which one was the Curry variance?
That's the one with the driveways, where he had the circular.
Oh, the neighbor's appealing. The
Correct.
variance. Okay.
Right. Other than that, I have no other announcements on the legal front.
Fantastic. I don't either. So, I guess it. Stephen, you have some announcements?
Your mic's not on.
Thank you. Good evening. I have a withdrawal request and a continuance request for your
Perfect.
consideration. You want to take them in order or both up top?
Yeah, let's take them in order. Oh, you mean, yeah, let's, which ones are you withdrawing?
Okay, the first item, the Lux CL variance, that is the withdrawal request.
All right, so the board doesn't need to take any action on that. If they've withdrawn their application, then
Perfect.
And then the continuance memo, or the continuance request, excuse me, is for item number 5, the Goodman variance.
Is there anybody here that's in the audience for the Goodman variance? You're good with us continuing that?
Yeah, I actually represent the applicant. We're requesting the continuance to
Got it.
remedy
I think
deficiency we
maybe-
found.
Maybe we should deny it.
is the
Not yet. At least wait for me to come back.
the continuance request to the next meeting,
At the next
April meeting?
That's correct. That's correct.
I'll make a motion to continue the Goodman variance to our next meeting, the April, what's the date? April what?
Not sure, third week, right?
So fourth
Fourth.
week, April 23rd?
April 23rd?
I'll
This
second
location?
that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, Stephen. I guess at this time, we need to have swearing in of the witnesses. So any person here tonight that plans to speak, please stand and raise your right hand and swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Do you all swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, thank you.
Guess I don't need to say that part. All right. So that brings cell phone tower conditional use, sheriff site number 1 up on the agenda. Who's here to represent? Come on up. How many more of these are we gonna do? Are we gonna do 3 a month for the next few months? Is it? Okay.
I have copies of the letter that we sent today, introducing the record. I have copies for you if you don't have. I may pass them out just so you have them in front of you if you would like.
I'm not seeing that in our package.
What did you? Oh, he has them.
Perfect. So we need to give some to Hayward for applicant exhibit A.
Mr. Chick advised this will be introduced as applicant's Exhibit A for the record. Deposit.
All right, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman and Board, my name is Aaron Garnett. I'm here today on behalf of the applicant, City Switch, and the Walton County Sheriff's Office. I have with me here today Mr. Tracy Voss, the Chief of Emergency Services with the Walton County Sheriff's Office. Mr. Kevin Sasso with my client, City Switch, wanted me to give you his apologies. He was not able to be here today. He had a conflict, but wanted me to extend his apologies that he could not be here personally. Ultimately, just to give the board a preview before I go into the agenda item that's specifically before you, which is the conditional use, I just want to give you a preview of the 3 items that we have being heard today. We have 1, a conditional use for Miramar Sheriff Site 1. We have 2, a variance for Miramar Sheriff Site 1. And we have a variance for Children's Home as well. the children's home site. So there's three things before you. First, the agenda item is going to be the conditional use for Miramar. I want to give you a brief preview. I know you heard it in February, but I'm going to just give you just a brief preview of the project. These two sites, because we have two sites at issue today, these two sites are part of a larger project involving 14 sites in total. City Switch was awarded this program through a competitive, an invitation to do a competitive bid for this process. This process is structured to maximize the use of county-owned property. Purpose for that is to reduce upfront costs and also provide a revenue opportunity long-term for the county. The two sites before you tonight are on county-owned property. This is consistent with the objective of that project. These two sites represent an estimated savings of $1.3 to $1.5 million in taxpayer dollars over the terms of the lease. These sites, importantly, are critical to develop the telecommunications infrastructure for the Walton County Sheriff's Office for the public need. With that preview in mind, I'm going to now just briefly talk about the conditional use. We've marked in the March 26, 2026 letter that was submitted via the portal as Exhibit A. That letter has attached to it two exhibits. It has a fall zone letter and it has an FAA determination. The fall zone letter indicates that the tower and provides the tower is built so that when it collapses like a straw. It falls within the compound. The FAA letter, no hazard determination, shows that these towers built at the proposed height pose no hazard to aviation. These towers are in urgent need for the Walton County Sheriff's Office. That's what's driving this request today. They're needed by the Walton County Sheriff's Office, the Walton County Fire Department, EMS, and Public Safety. You heard that pretty extensively on February 26. And we'll go into that in more elaboration. Mr. Voss will talk during the variance aspects, but for the conditional use, which is more simple, I'm trying to keep it short. We meet all the requirements for conditional use. That's the staff support. The staff report supports this. The staff is going to present next, and they're going to mark the staff report into the record as well. Our letter, which has been marked in as Exhibit A, also supports this. The
letter that's in Exhibit A is not specifically referencing the towers that are up today. Is that an accident, or is that just the general letter about the fall zone design criteria for all of the towers?
No, if you look at the Exhibit A.
Well, the cover letter, Exhibit A is from Valmont Telecom, and it references a tower in Miramar Beach, and we're looking at a site on Highway 20. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I understand that they're all engineered to fall within their own radius, so.
The Miramar Beach site is actually in Choctaw Beach. Tracy Voss with the Sheriff's Office, for the record. We started in Miramar and went through a whole range of properties when we were there trying to find a property to service Miramar. We went as far as as Okaloosa County trying to get a site at the Okaloosa or the Destin Middle School. None of those worked out. We just could not nail one down. The engineers discovered that the coverage would be just as good in Choctaw Beach at the fire station, looking back over the bay at Miramar, as if the tower was actually physically in Miramar.
Okay.
We decided not to call it Choctaw Beach because we had been calling it Miramar for 1.5 years already.
Okay.
So it just kept the Miramar name, but that's the site on Highway 20 that you're talking about.
Thank you for putting that in the record.
So again, we would say that the fall zone letter, it is that the tower, the height that's referenced in there and the compound, it's designed to fall within the compound. And we would also assert that the FAA letter, there's no hazard to aviation at this height that it's being built. We believe that it meets all the criteria for conditional use as supported by the staff report. And unless you have any other questions from me, I will step away so that the staff can present and enter the staff report into the record.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, good evening. Sheriff Site 1, cell tower conditional use, request to approve by final order, project number CU 26-000001 is being reviewed by myself, Bridget Clements. This is a conditional use application submitted by Baker Donaldson on behalf of Walton County requesting conditional use under the section 2.02.06, letter D, on 11.38 acres with a future land use of residential, rural residential, and a zoning district of rural village. This property is in District 1, located at the address listed with the parcel ID listed. Can I please put the staff report into the record?
Yes, please enter that into the record.
That'll be Exhibit 1.
All right.
Y'all have any questions for me?
It meets all the criteria?
Yes, so for conditional use, we didn't really find anything to complain about.
Yeah, I think this definitely appears to meet the conditional use requirements for that site. This is a bigger site than some of the other ones that we've been looking at, so there's less risk of this tower impacting other
Properties.
properties and adjacent structures.
Yeah, there, if you look around, I don't believe where they're proposing it. I don't have the distances, but any structures nearby are a little bit farther than the other ones. It is right behind the firehouse.
I guess we can, the next one would specifically address the placement of the tower, is that correct?
Yes. The variance will.
I do. I have a couple of questions. Reference Exhibit G2, known historical and cultural sites. Can you elaborate on that?
That is the environmental comment. Oh, sorry.
Frequent flooding, is that what you're referencing?
Well, it's not just the frequent flooding. They make it known that there's known historical and cultural sites on that, in that vicinity of the project, and that's WL0003, WL00022. I just wanted to know, how is that gonna affect, that site? And then my next question was gonna be the soil assessment. Is that gonna create an issue, because you have a dry area and then you have a wet area that doesn't drain, it seems?
I don't have those documents with me. I don't know if the applicant has any more information on this. Please.
I can speak as to the drainage particularly. We, as part of this process, we did provide a drainage calculation that said adding the tower will have no impact on the drainage, or the historical drainage patterns are not altered. And I don't have yeah, I believe I do have enough. I'm gonna mark this in as an exhibit as well and provide you with a copy.
We don't know what the historical or cultural are on that site.
And I'm marking this in as exhibit B.
I can address the historical. When we built the fire station on that property, we bought this property in 2000, the sheriff's office bought this property in 2018, and with the intention of building a fire station on it. Through the zoning, planning, and process of building that department, it was discovered that there was, with the Department of State, a record of historical not quite sure exactly how to say it, but there was some historical significance to the site. So that required a NEPA study and then a more in-depth archaeological study where we had to hire an archaeologist and a firm to come out and do testing of the site, looking for shards or any evidence of historical value from indigenous people that would have lived on that site years ago. What they discovered was that there was nothing of historical significance. And it was that discovery that allowed us to go forward with building the fire station on that site.
All right.
Yeah, Hayward, we need to enter this letter in.
He had requested to be introduced as applicant's Exhibit B, so unless there's any objection, that'll be applicant's Exhibit B for the record.
All right,
Anything else for me?
I don't have any more questions. Anybody else?
All right, thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience that's here to speak on this one? Come on up.
Evening.
State your
My name
for-
is Charles Merkel. I go by Chuck because I'm a junior, and I live over in Choctaw Beach. And I'm here this evening because I received a certified letter dated the 13th of March, mailed the 10th of March, delivered the 12th of March. And I take these seriously, and I'm trying to be a good citizen. One of the questions I had was why I received the letter, because it indicates in the letter that our house and our property is within 300 feet of the project, and I know how to read a map, and it's at the old firehouse, and we are full a mile away in Lake Sharon Estates. And so I'm confused as to why I received the letter, and that's the reason I'm here. I'm responding to the letter. And the other thing I wanted to ask was, on the description of the project, it states rural residences and zoning category of rural village. In the description of the project, it talks about that. What does that mean in layman's terms?
About the zoning of the parcel?
Yeah, the zoning, that's right. I'm confused a little bit about the rural village, so excuse me, this isn't my world, so I'm trying to learn.
I'm gonna let Stephen speak to this one, if you could address his comment about, this is about the conditional use being in a rural village zoning definition, and then allowing this cell phone tower to move forward with the process.
Sure. I mean, I can certainly approach just just in general what rural village zoning is. It is one of many of our zoning districts that are under. Right. So, yeah. So the rural residential is our future land use classification. And the zoning category is rural village. That is the designation of this site and many of the properties in this general vicinity. It comes with specific uses allowed by right, conditional uses allowed through this process, and other various development standards. Generally, the density out there is 2 units to an acre. There's some limited commercial opportunities. That's essentially what this is in reference to, is what can be allowed in the rural village zoning district.
Well, thank you for doing that. What I'm trying to determine is if this is going to impact my home and my property in any way, since it's a mile away.
Well, what they're doing is building an infrastructure that would involve some cell phone towers that would be built along.
I understand,
So,
yeah.
I guess if you're not within 300 feet, it would be a lot less of an impact to you. But I'm glad that you came and participated in the process. But yeah, right now.
Does this permit them to come into our property and dig trenches and take down trees and those sorts of things? It's my ignorance, I don't know.
It appears that their intent is to build the cell phone tower at the the parcel that is currently the fire station. So it will be a part of that property and would be accessed from that property.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and so Stephen, this is an allowable conditional use for this future land use.
That's correct. For this zoning district, yeah, this is an explicit conditional use allowed to proceed through this process.
Perfect. So this is really more of a technicality.
But it doesn't extend a mile, extends 300
No.
feet? Is
No,
that
this particular development is limited to this site.
Right.
While there is some potential impact off-site, it is limited to this site in reality, right? So when you're talking about a site that's a mile away, other than maybe some minor aesthetic impact where you would potentially be able to see it, that would probably be your only impact that you would see out of this application.
Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. And may I get a second letter that indicates what you just said?
I don't think that's how this works.
Well, again, I received this in writing and certified, and I'm, sorry?
Right. Right, you'll be able to access this meeting on the county's website for future reference.
Okay, well, thank you.
And I will also offer, sir, offline, after this meeting tomorrow or next week, if you have my information, if you get in contact with me, I'm happy to send you an email or an email with a PDF letter signed, just kind of stating what we just discussed.
Fantastic. I hope you know where I'm coming from.
Absolutely.
Thank you very
Right.
much. I appreciate it. You got my card.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
No, sir, that's it. That's just trying to understand.
There was somebody else on this side of the room that wanted to speak?
Rogers. I live 73 Western Street, Choctaw Beach. So,
How close are you to this site?
there.
Across the street or,
No, I live right behind.
okay, behind it, got it.
And what I was wondering is if y'all ever considered the other two places where there was a water tower down at the end of Eastern Street, big, huge water tower, and a Chippewa Street there, Choctaw Beach, is a huge area. I just took pictures of it. And it's all nice and flat. You can just drive right to it, and it's all electrical, big, huge area. Substation. Right there at, have you noticed?
I'm familiar with the site,
Yeah,
but no, those are not. Water towers particularly.
I'm just talking about in the area.
In the area. What we try to do is put these county property.
Who owns the water tower property?
Does he need to speak?
Yeah.
Who owns the water tower property?
I'm not familiar with who owns the city of Freeport.
I would, yeah, if there's a water tower, I fully suspect it would be owned by the utility provider, which in the area, I believe, is either Freeport or, is there another one that serves that area? Out of Niceville, maybe? City of Freeport.
Yeah, oh, you do? Yeah, I was just there today. Yeah, I took pictures, just nice area all the way in the back. I think it's perfect. This other place that y'all are talking about is right there off the road, right? Right in my backyard.
Well.
How
it's
close to
on the fire department parcel.
Uh-huh.
So I think that what the county is trying to do is put it on the land that they own and that they have access to that's already designated for county use, like the fire station.
Are they gonna be putting one, another, on the other area that they're gonna be building the next fire station on 20? On the east side of 331?
I don't have the answer to that, but I'm seeing a head shaking no, so that
No, you only want to put it at this place.
No, we're building 14 of these
Oh, 14.
for the area.
Oh. What about where the electrical?
What might be
It is
useful,
not-
what might be useful is if you'll, last time we did this and we went through a few of these, one or both of you explained, one, the reason why the structures are built why they are and where they're placed, and then you explained the necessity from the communication perspective. You might spend a few moments, while I don't want to drag the meeting out, explaining those things again since everyone wasn't here last time. That might alleviate the explanation of why it can't go on a water tower or elsewhere.
Well, you have less problem because there's not that many people where we are. Is that why you came to this area?
And sir, if you don't mind, ma'am, if you want to move over, if you want to come up to the microphone because these are recorded, so we
Oh,
can make
sorry.
sure.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I was just gonna ask, I'm happy to do that. We had planned to do it for the variance because we didn't think that was an aspect that was considered for the factors for the conditional use. If that's necessary for the conditional use, we're happy to put on now. We planned on talking about the location and the need for the variance.
I think that's a great point, that this particular site has two procedures. One is the conditional use, and then the variance application will be specific to the actual tower itself and how it's placed and located. So if you're okay waiting till the next one.
No,
No,
it's
it's
just-
tonight. It's the very
it's
next
the very next
item
agenda
on the
item.
agenda.
Yeah, and I mean, just so the board knows, I mean, you can do, as Mr. Story said, do it now, because there is a component of the conditional use that talks about any negative impacts of the proposed use on adjacent properties. So it sounds like that's what Ms. Rogers is bringing up. So if you wanted to,
When we can do it now and cross-reference it to the next one,
Exactly,
right? Yeah,
so-
we don't have to restate it.
exactly. So again,
Go
I'll
ahead
leave it
and
up
do
to
it
the
now,
board
then.
procedurally how it wishes to do it, but there is that component of conditional use that you're supposed to consider that aspect. So this may be an appropriate time to.
Perfect, thank you. Have a seat, we'll give you a chance to come back up.
Thank you.
And I would probably include in that where the other ones are from last time as well, since there's been a question of the location of all of them. If we pick just up there, we did do some other ones in other locations.
Okay. I'll briefly talk about the location. What I'm going to talk through to you right now with is the selection of the location. And then I'll have Mr. Voss come up and talk to you a little bit about the need and also the other locations. For this tower, for the Miramar site, for the Sheriff Site 1, numerous sites were considered. A water tank near Seascape Resort, a vacant parcel near Miramar Drive, adjacent Florida Power land that was near Miramar Drive, county-owned land, including a parking structure, and 7 additional private properties were considered for the site, a tremendous amount. Ultimately, each one of these didn't work. The water tank near Seascape Resort didn't work because the water utility said they didn't, that it wasn't approved. The vacant parcel near Miramar Beach Drive was not a viable option. Adjacent Florida Power and Light property also was unavailable. Alternative county-owned land intending to be a parking structure was considered, but the dilemma with using that structure was ultimately it would end up impacting its primary use, so that was unavailable. We then evaluated 7 additional private parcels within Miramar Beach, but each of those presented constraints regarding wetlands, site design limitations, and lack of availability. Because again, this is going back to the circumstances for this, which is kind of going into the reason we need a variance, is we're trying to build a public safety network, essentially, a telecommunications infrastructure built specifically for the sheriff's department. They've identified sites, and then we try to accommodate to make that happen so that there's an infrastructure that provides support for the public safety. That's what's driving these specific locations. And it's not as easy as just saying, move over here. So each one of these sites that we're considering is because it fit within the design to provide our police officers with essentially a network so they can call for help when they need help or other situations. So that's what's driving the locations. It's not as simple as, why can't it be here, here, there? Each one of these sites is being considered for a specific reason. And it was a very exhaustive search. The private parcels, the dilemma becomes, just like you can see with the fire station, 9 acres of it is wetlands. There's a lot of wetlands that run into the issue. So wetlands was an issue in a lot of places, design limitations, and just simple lack of availability. Ultimately, given the limited viable parcels in this highly constrained like coastal area, we also explored an option in Okaloosa County. I apologize if I mispronounced it. We considered a site in Okaloosa County, which ultimately did not advance. So it's not like we just picked the fire station, but as a result of all those sites either being not available, not viable, or a water utility saying, no, you can't put it here, we shifted our search north across the bay to the Choctaw Beach Fire Station property. At the fire station site, the parcel is approximately 11 acres. However, the area west of the driveway is protected wetland, and we're also required to maintain clear separation from the EMS services. This limited the viable build area to a narrow section of upland between the driveway and property line. To maintain system performance after moving, because again, this is going back to the operational requirements to meet to build a public safety network for the sheriff's office. Because of moving it, we had to raise the tower height. It went from 200 feet to 255 feet. So that was an impact of the moving of the tower. The compound is designed 75 feet by 75 feet within an 80 by 80 lease area. The tower is engineered as the fall zone letter that we provided, that in the unlikely event it collapses, it sustains 158 mile an hour winds. And I know at last hearing someone asked, is that Hurricane 5? So I did look, that is Hurricane 5. So it should withstand Hurricane 5 winds. And even in the unlikely event that it collapses, it bends like a straw and collapses within the compound area. And also, just going to the height rise, the increase in height also presents no hazard to aviation, as we provided in the FAA letter as well, that increase in height. Due to the constrained geometry in the area, essentially the only usable upland that we can't meet the setback requirements, and that's why we also saw a variance. The hardship of finding a site that's both available, the environmental constraints and the operational requirements has what ultimately forced us into selection this site, which is a key and critical site. Miramar Sheriff Site 1 is critical, like all the other ones, to build out this network for the Walton County Sheriff's Office. And now Mr. Voss can come up and probably provide a little bit more detail about the other sites and provide you even more clarity on why these sites are so important to Walton County.
And I guess I wasn't clear, Tracy Voss for the record, I wasn't clear on what other sites that you want. Was it the children's home site that you wanted me to talk about?
No, I was just going to give you the opportunity to explain why the system update is needed. Last time we walked through, I think, a number of cases, one that directly impacted over in the Miramar Beach area, and then some that were north of the bridge as well.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll give you just a little reminder, especially for the folks who weren't here last time, why we're here to begin with. And it's simply that the gaps in this public safety infrastructure, this communication system, all of these towers that exist around Walton County, they're insufficient. It doesn't provide the level of connectivity, the capacity for all of the responders that are actually on this network to communicate. And it certainly doesn't provide opportunity for interoperability where we can actually communicate with our neighbors. We have multiple different organizations on this system, and we can't talk directly with them. That's called interoperability. So believe it or not, the radio that we have in North Walton, the deputies have in North Walton, we can't communicate directly with South Walton Fire Department. We have to work around to achieve that. And that's an old system. It was designed that way, but that was 30 years ago that was designed. And here we are now. We're not achieving what the 911 Commission put in front of us 25 years ago, which was you shall achieve interoperability, which they laid interoperability at the feet of the reason why so many firefighters and police officers and Port Authority officers died in the 911 attack of the Twin Towers. Interoperability. They couldn't communicate with each other. We're still fighting that battle today. This system fixes that. That's one of the reasons that we're here. We're trying to get this done. These gaps are the result of a system that was originally built for economy, not growth. And it's a real ongoing threat for the citizens and for the responders in Walton County. I said this last time, I'll say it again, because this is the absolute truth. When communication fails in public safety, everything else fails. There are consequential things here. I think I reminded you guys, or I told you guys of a handful of cases where we had deputies who were in a smoking gunfight behind the Waffle House in Miramar and calling for help, and they couldn't get out on their radios. Now that's in Miramar. That's not way out in the woods. That's in town, and this system doesn't work. The tower at Choctaw Beach fixes that problem. But that problem exists today. That's what I'm trying to get across here. That problem, even though this happened a year and a half ago, the story I just told about the deputies happened a year and a half ago, it can happen tonight. These are real consequences of a system that's not capable of delivering the service that these folks need. And the way I see this, the way the sheriff's office views this, is the biggest obstacle we face is a land development code that is insufficient for the contemporary building needs of a public safety system. It requires a setback that is absolutely not necessary. It does not contemplate the engineering capabilities that are available in construction methods today. And that's the reason we're here, is to get a variance from that very requirement, which requires today a tower to fall on its linear length. Well, they don't do that. They fall inside the compound they're built in, but the code doesn't contemplate that. So that's the variance request we're going to lay before you here in a little while. But that's the biggest threat to this whole project, is that one thing. So what we're asking for is reasonable, and it's very specific, and it's a variance to these setback requirements. Certified by engineers to collapse within their own secured compound, and they pose no risk to surrounding property lines or the structures within them. We're not asking you to compromise safety. The board has supported this project. The Board of County Commissioners supported this project. The public has supported this project. And at this point, we've come too far in this project for any more delays, particularly regulatory delays, that any reasonable person can look at and say, all right, that's not necessary. So we're asking you for these variances. And as far as the public need, I don't know that the public understands how serious this need is. But if your firefighters and your paramedics and your EMTs and your deputies aren't able to communicate with the communication center, the hub of information that they need to communicate with to provide this blanket of security that the citizens expect them to, if they actually knew the situation we were in, they would want these towers, and they would want them now. And we're working hard to provide that. So with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I think a great explanation of it.
Okay.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to speak on this matter? All right,
Motion to close public discussion.
have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Second.
Conditional
Just so
use.
we're clear, this is just the conditional use. You'll have the variance in the next. Okay.
Who was the second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I guess that passed.
Yes, the conditional use.
All right, next item on the agenda.
I guess he could just
Yeah,
present
I
anything.
think we just want to clarify the difference now on why this needs a variance specifically.
Okay. And not go into the location so much.
Correct.
Okay, the location ties into that a little bit, but I won't rehash all of that. As just
Yeah.
would ask that what the record be incorporated from the prior one into this one. Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
It is for me. Hayward, you good with that?
Oh, I'm fine. It's up to the board. If the board wants to recognize what was presented at the prior,
You want a motion for that?
prior section, I mean, if there's a consensus, I don't feel like there's a need to.
Carry on.
Okay, I just don't want to be, I want to be respectful of your time as well. Ultimately, and I would ask that the Exhibit A, which is our March 26, 2026 letter, and the fall zone letter and the FFA letter, which are attached to that, be entered into Exhibit A for the variance as well.
Not a problem. We'll do that.
And then same thing, just so in case it comes up, Exhibit B, which was regarding the drainage, I would ask that too as well, that there's no impact to the historical drainage too,
Yep.
as Exhibit A.
So applicants Exhibit A and B from the first conditional use request will be adopted and made part of the record for the variance request.
Perfect.
What we're asking for is a variance for a 250-foot tower with a 20-foot lightning rod in District 1 at the Myanmar Sheriff Site 1. The staff report, it's very thorough. The staff, I could say great things about the staff. They did a great job going thoroughly through it. They've identified 3 of the 7 requirements that they feel that we fall short of. We believe that we meet those. Those criteria are whether there's no special circumstances, no unnecessary hardship, and grants a special privilege. Here, there are special circumstances. I think that in any case of where there's a tower, this is the most unique for special circumstances. The tower needs to be at a specific height, a specific location, to build telecommunications infrastructure for the Walton County Sheriff's Office, for public safety, for EMS, and for public need. So we believe that, this is the special circumstance, the need of this technology and the requirement to be located in this area at this height. That's a special circumstance. We believe we meet that factor. No unnecessary hardship was another factor that the staff report believed we fell short of. We believe we meet that factor. The hardship here is the sheriff's office and the public need for a public safety network. The variance is needed due to that, to allow us to be within the setback.
But yeah, specifically, the variance is that there's supposed to be a 255-foot setback so the tower can collapse in a linear fashion, but they don't actually do that.
Correct. The towers do not fall over like a tree.
Right.
They are designed in the letter that we provided to Mr. Chairman, the letter that we provided the board show the BZA is that this tower, it is designed to bend and collapse on itself within the compound. It's not going to fall over. It's going to be within the least compound that this, on the extreme unlikely event that it ever even does, a professional engineer has certified that this is going to fall in the structure, the compound.
Stephen, is there any way we can change that in the land development code?
Yeah, I've been working with our partners in the sheriff's department on some language, and I'm actually moving it forward next month with some other changes.
Okay, perfect. So that's maybe the last time we hear this.
Well, the approval process will take more than just one meeting, unfortunately, so they're on a time crunch, so yeah, unfortunately, you'll have to hear a few more.
This is really more of a technicality of the engineering of the tower collapsing in on its 80 by 80 envelope on the site, and the land development code is requiring a 255-foot setback so that the tower, in theory, doesn't collapse over onto somebody else's property.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. This will be, this is just a technicality, avoiding a hardship created by the old language of the code, not taking into consideration modern technology where the tower is designed to fall over and collapse on itself.
Okay.
And another aspect which the planners felt we fell short of was it grants a special privilege. This is not a private carrier seeking to build a telecommunications tower. This is not AT&T or Verizon. This is a unique party and a unique purpose. This is the Walton County Sheriff's Office building this tower for a very specific reason, and that is to build a public safety network. And those are the two things that I would just tie, that the reason that it's not as easy just to deviate from it is because this is designed for a specific location and a specific. Unless you have any questions, I won't regurgitate all of what I talked about before, and I'll allow the staff to present and put their report into the record.
Perfect, thank you. Bridget, is that you?
This is Sheriff Site 1, Walton County Sheriff Office Cell Tower Variance, request to approve by final order. Project number VAR 26-000014, being reviewed by myself, Bridget Clements. This is a variance application submitted by Baker Donaldson on behalf of Walton County, requesting a variance of for section 5.07.10A2 of the Land Development Code to allow for the setbacks to adhere to section 5.00.003 on the 11.38 plus or minus acres with the future land use of rural residential in a zoning category of rural village. This property is located in District 1 at the address in the staff report and the parcel ID in the staff report. Walton County Planning acknowledges that the proposed tower is intended to improve health, welfare, and safety of the community. That is the staff findings.
Let's enter that staff report into the record.
Yes, please, thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Bridget?
Richard, I have just a few quick ones. On the, as he pointed out, on the special circumstances, is the reason for the finding that the existence of special circumstances is necessarily tied to the deprivation of the reasonable use? Because, I mean, I would say as a general matter, it would be a special circumstance, but is that the textual reason for the finding? Number 3. Under
Number
the,
3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, I was going at that last sentence, right? Just to provide clarity for everyone, which was the requirement of the county setbacks does not appear to deprive the owner of the reasonable use of such land.
Oh, okay.
And so I was asking if the denial is premised upon the fact that textually it's tied to the special circumstances being just the reasonable use of the land, not
Well, yeah,
the special
so-
circumstances in general.
The reasonable use, so the requirement of the county setbacks does not appear to deprive the owner of the reasonable use of the land, is because even without the cell tower, you could still reasonably use
Yeah.
the land.
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Yeah, I was basically gonna ask the same question of the second one, which was the hardship, which I think is also tied textually and not more generally to the hardship, which would explain the textual denial.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, the unnecessary hardship is that if they weren't, if you weren't gonna build something that didn't meet the code, you could still do it. So in this case, that we're asking for a variance because of the height, but the land is still usable. So it's like kind of, an unnecessary hardship.
I have one last question, because it's come up in this letter each time. It's the Baker Donaldson letter, and it says in here on the second page, the final paragraph, it's citing 50710A2 and 5003, and what it says is at the very last that Walton County has, planning and zoning has interpreted the provision that it cites above, and particularly the last sentence as prohibiting variances from its requirements. But I'm assuming that that's not your position if we're here and y'all's report doesn't say that a variance is prohibited from being requested at all. I think Steve and I mentioned this to you last time, but would be an incorrect statement, right? Okay. That's all.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to come up and speak on this one? All right. We'll give you guys the last word.
All I would just emphasize again is the public need. The public need for this is what's driving this specific site, this specific location, and creating that hardship in that special circumstance. That's all what I would emphasize.
Very much. Motion to close public discussion.
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We want to make a motion?
Motion to approve the variance request for, whatever the agenda item is. The variance request for the Sheriff's Site 1 cell tower variance.
Question, why don't we start with you, Paul?
I think it's, we've already been through so many of these, I think it's a necessary thing. Mr. Boss has explained so good, to have communication between these deputies and the firefighters and everybody else. I think it's a necessary thing. You'd want it if you were the one in a gunfight out there, you would want that communication.
I agree with Paul, but I do think, Mr. Voss, I appreciate you taking the time to share the public need again so that everyone could hear it. I think not being able to communicate with your partners in a gunfight is probably not an ideal place to have the department. So I personally, if you asked me to put one in the middle of Grand Boulevard, I'd probably say yes. So I'm a yes.
Yeah, I mean, the code's outdated, so that's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, and I do empathize with the people tonight that have spoken about their concerns for the adjacency to their property and all the people that are impacted by these towers. But there is a need, and in a perfect world, yes, there would be no impact to anybody. But the reality is that we need the towers, and I think they've done a great job of identifying properties that actually reduce the amount of impact to the community. So I just want to put that in the record that's obvious that you guys have done the due diligence and that this is actually a logical place to put it.
I agree. I think the county's trying to put them in is the best place they can get them to affect the least amount of people. They're putting it on county land, and not somebody else's land. And they're trying to double up with a lot of the stuff they've already got with fire departments or whatever. The code, I think, will in the future address it to the point where it won't even be necessary to apply for a variance, it seems like. And I think the need is very clear.
All right, we have a motion, a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, you got your variance. Next item on the agenda,
Children's home.
another tower. Yeah, so I think there's probably gonna be a lot of repetition of the issues here, but I do think we need to get the pertinent information into the record.
And what I would like to do is I have another letter that we sent in advance.
This also would have the FAA letter and what was the other?
Correct. To be clear, this is a letter dated March 26, 2026, and attached to it, it has a fall zone report, and it also has a FAA letter of no hazard to aviation at the proposed height. And I would respectfully request to be able to introduce this into the record.
Fine, I'll get one at the end.
I-
This is
I have-
different.
Oh, okay. I got one. Perfect. We just need to make sure,
So that's
Secretary.
applicant's Exhibit A.
yes. We can introduce as a composite Exhibit A for the applicant.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I missed that. So that's introduced as Exhibit A, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure. Ultimately, then I would respectfully request, could we do the same thing to streamline this hearing, incorporate the testimony and comments from the conditional use and the prior variance into this one, and I'm happy to have Mr. Voss come up and put on as much testimony as you'd like as well, or myself. I just don't want to, I want to be respectful of your time as well.
I think that's reasonable.
I'm good with it.
Yep.
Okay, I'll proceed that way. My goal will just be more to limit today's discussion than to the location and just explain one other finding. There was one other aspect to the conditions in this one that differentiated from the other one, so I will.
Do y'all mind taking it in the hall? Thank you.
Getting to it, as to this one, we're requesting the board to approve a 305-foot tower with a 25-foot lightning rod in District 2 at the children's home site.
Does the lightning rod count in the fall zone variance calculation?
It does in the fall zone. The towers, these towers, we do this all over the place. They're designed the same way. A lot of times it's referred to as a effective theoretical zero fall zone because the way it's designed is it essentially collapses
Right.
like a straw into the compound.
So we do need the extra 25 feet for the lightning rod.
Extra 25 feet. What do you mean for the?
Well,
The tower fell over like a tree.
Oh, yeah,
You would need 330 feet.
correct. But it doesn't fall that way. It falls into the compound.
right, but the way we were writing the variance is, do we have to give it a linear variance from 330
305 plus 25, right?
to?
Is that what you said, 305?
Yes, it's 305 plus
No,
25.
so what you've done in the past is you apply the setback requirements for residential, so then they're like 7.5 on the sides. So that's what have done in the past. That way, when the variance occurs, they're required to build their site in accordance with standard setbacks. So they're saying, take us out of this section and make us comply with these requirements. So there's no 100 feet now reduced to 7.5 feet.
And getting into the aspects of the staff report here, pretty much the other same findings were similar to with the no special circumstances, no unnecessary hardship, and no grants of special privilege. I'm not going to regurgitate those. The one that did come up, though, that was different, it mentioned that this wasn't the minimal variance to accomplish this purpose. This is again not being built for private carrier. It's for the Walton County Sheriff's Office, and the height and the location is the minimum necessary to construct the wireless facility to accomplish that operational requirement. This wireless facility is being built to fill a coverage and a significant gap, undermining the ability to respond to disasters. It's not like the sheriff's office is in the tower construction business. This is being built for that specific purpose. So it is, we would say that we do meet that one as well, because it is the minimum necessary to accomplish the goal of building the telecommunication infrastructure for the Walton County Sheriff's Office. And what I will do is now walk through a little bit of the tower, the location history, so you can kind of understand how we essentially arrived at this location. And again, going back to something I said at the beginning that I think is important, is this is a tremendous opportunity too for the county, because it's going to save $1.3 to $1.5 million in taxpayer funds over the terms of these lease. So that's why the objective here is to carry out that process that we competitively bid for to put these on county-owned property. This is another county-owned property. The children's home site was the original identified parcel in the network design. And so this is working towards that original objective. The initial concept was to place the tower towards the front of the property. However, following discussions with the planning department, we evaluated other locations to determine whether there was a potentially other suitable site that met setback requirements. As part of that effort, we conducted several neighborhood property owners to see if there were options to build there. While most didn't respond, we were able to engage a few on preliminary discussions, but those ultimately didn't work out. One adjacent parcel to the east did express interest. However, that option would have introduced approximately $1 million in additional long-term lease costs, along with roughly $525,000 increase in construction costs due to the required cost to repair the road. So that is why that was ruled out, because given the need to maintain and protect the momentum and remain stewards of the grant funds, because again, this is grant funds and city switch funds, we elected not to pursue that off-site alternative that would have significantly increased the overall cost. Instead, we redesigned the site to the northern edge of the children's home parcel to better align with the planning considerations while remaining on county-controlled property. The proposed design is 305 feet self-tower support with an 80 by 80 compound. And just like the other towers, it's designed to fall in and collapse in on itself. It's located adjacent to the parcel boundary. The tower, due to this, and also too, just going back to the height, again, we have the FAA letter that shows that this is no hazard at the height to aviation at this proposed height. And that's what I have for this one. Unless you have any questions, I've already marked in the letter as Exhibit A.
The savings, is it 1.3 to 1.5 per lease site, or 1.3 to 1.5 total?
1.3 to 1.5 with these two sites. These two sites essentially amount to a 1.3 to 1.5 tax saving across the terms of the lease.
Okay.
How far is the 80-foot fence, the line, the border of the 80-foot square, how far is that border to the children's home?
I do not know. Let me look quickly.
I mean, it's not within a couple feet, just
It is not.
generally.
It is not.
The property line or the building?
The property, I guess it would be, I'm kind of asking the building, but
Yeah, the existing structure on
the
the
existing
site
structure, yeah.
does not have a radius bubble around it like it does for the other adjacent properties. So
Exhibit E of the staff report, I believe, provides kind of dimensions where you could kind of approximate it.
Okay.
And when I'm looking at it, and again, I'm approximating, you can see that there's 4.5 feet. And I'm looking at Exhibit E from like between the tower to that other end, and it looks like it's in the middle of there. So slightly less, I would say you could at least say it's probably a third. It's at least over 100+ feet.
I think it's about 175
Yeah.
feet.
How tall is the Wild Star Tower that's already there on the site?
I'm sorry?
Well, how tall is that tower, the little internet tower? The Wild Star internet tower that's in the front of it?
I don't have that information.
I think we believe that.
180 feet. Okay.
Do you have any other questions for me? I will step aside so the staff report can be.
Who gets this one?
I get this one. Good evening. This is the Children's Home cell tower variance. This one does not need a conditional use.
Sorry, you have to state your name.
Rosanna Edwards from the Planning Department. Thank you. This is just a variance request. It's a request to approve by final order. It's project number VAR 26-000013. This is a variance application submitted by Baker Donaldson on behalf of Walton County. They are requesting a variance from section 5.07.10.A2 of the Land Development Code to allow the setbacks to adhere to section 5.00.03 on 3.53 acres. It has a future land use of public facilities and institutional, and a zoning category of institutional. The property is located in District 2 at 4962 County Highway 2 and identified by the parcel number in your staff report. If you would please enter the staff report into the record.
Yes, let's
Thank
do
you.
that.
I will not reiterate everything that said on the previous variances. You've already seen many and many more to come. Staff does understand this is a self-created hardship, but also the complexity and the safety aspect here as well. The applicant did provide some stuff I just wanted to address because this one is, there are some different variables here. You did state there was an existing tower on site. However, the code does allow towers that are owned or leased to any government that they're exempt from the shared use. So they are exempt in this case. There is also an aspect for towers in the Air Force Base Military Influence Overlay District. And I don't know how many more will be in this area or zone, but I provided that in the staff report, but I also wanted to make sure it was clear on the record that this variance is not approving that height exemption from that section of the code. There are provisions in the Land Development Code that allow height exceptions in Walton County, and they are contingent on review and approval by the Board of County Commissioners. And so typically height limits in that critical approach zone 2 are limited to 50 feet. There are exceptions if they are less than 200 feet, and anything beyond that are taken to the board. So this variance is just setback variance. It's not a height variance. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Finish the rest of
They
the
do still have to
development
do
order
a
process.
minor development order and request that height exception.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
the applicant is aware of that. So do
Anybody
you have any other
for
questions?
Rosanna? You good? All right,
Thank
thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak up about this one? Come on up. Please state your name.
My name is Wanda Willis, and a little history about the children's home site that you're looking at. Our property, if you have the map, do you have the map? You can see that our property backs up to where this tower is to be built. Well, years ago, this property belonged to my parents and to Mr. Holbrook. And when they resurveyed the land, the way the survey came out, it was this little bitty parcel of land. So my parents and Mr. Holbrook got together. They decided, could we do something here to help the people in this community? So they decided to put the Children's Home Community Center there. My parents worked very hard to get a grant to build this community center, and a lot of help from the people that lived in that community. And it was supposed to be, number one, a facility that the people could go to and use it at no expense whatsoever. They could use the community center. And it was also, we had a meeting with Bobby Beasley, and he agreed to let it be a voting precinct. So they used it for a voting precinct for a long time. There was also a playground built on this property. There was also a heliport built on this property for a helicopter to land, which this other tower that they put up interfered with that. And we don't go up, our home is on this property, but we don't go up there. We live in Miramar Beach. So that night, we just happened to be up there, and we spent the night in the house. Well, at 12 o'clock at night, we got a knock on the door, 12 o'clock. So we went to the door, and it was a fireman and a police officer. So they said they had an emergency, and they needed to take someone to the hospital, and could they land in our pasture with that helicopter? And we said, absolutely sure, come on, whatever you have to do, it's fine with us. And at that point, my husband and I, Charles Willis, we said, why is that heliport not out at the community center anymore? Because they had been taking people back and forth to the hospital using that helipad there. Then this other tower was built there. Nobody had any knowledge that that tower was, and it's not as big as the one that you're proposing right now. And there was the citizens of that community had built a walking path all around that property where people come and walk, kids play on the playground. And all of a sudden now here we're seeing that they're taking property to build this tower. And I mean, I love Mike Atkins and I know what he's doing, and I have a lot of respect for the police department and EMS and all, but they own, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the county owns property on the corner of Highway 331 and 147, where there's a fire department, a police department. It's a Paxton facility there. So my question is, why would they not look at a facility like that where they have property, not come into the Children's Home Community Center? Because once you do something like this, and this just backs right up to our property, and I know that there was a drainage problem there at one time because the county came out to fix it. It was draining over on under all these trees here. So they came out and put a lot of rocks and whatever to keep that water from draining out on our property. And we have been very, very, anything that we could do to help, we wanted to do it to help. And my parents are both deceased, and most of the people who worked at this community center are no longer living. So they formed a board for the community center, a board of directors, which we maintained that for a long, long time until it got to the point where we couldn't pay the utilities on it to keep it open. We would have a lot of activities there. The politicians who were running for office would come in and use it, and they would speak, and we would have fundraisers just to keep the property, up. So as people started leaving the community or either dying, it was just a hardship for a lot of people. So we all got together. My husband was on the board, and we talked with everyone, and they decided the recommendation was to give it to the Walden County Board,
The Board of County Commissioners.
The Board of County Commissioners, if they would maintain it as a community center. And if it did not get maintained as a community center, that whole piece of property, it would revert back to the Board of Directors to go back to the Children's Home Community, is the way that it was worded when we signed all the deed, the documents and everything. So when we got this letter in the mail and we looked at it and we thought, well, they're just taking more and more property away from the community center to build these towers. And this is just the beginning. And my question is, why is it right here by the community center? Why did they not go all the way over here where there was a vacant piece of property, although it was owned by the Children's Home Community Center, which now the Walden County owns the property. But in the deed that we signed, it was never supposed to be used for something like this. So my question is, why would they not look at that property up on the county Highway 331 and 147, where they have a fire department there, and they have a police station there, and a lot of land around it that's not fenced off? So that's my question. And I'm really here on behalf of the citizens of Children's Home Community, because I don't think that they would want to see anything like this happen to cause that community center there. And what else? I needed to talk to somebody, because under those conditions that we had drawn up, it was like anybody who lived in that Children's Home Community right there would never have to pay to use that facility. Now, they could rent it to people outside and charge them a fee, but people are coming to me now because our property is backed up to here saying, Wanda, can you help us? Because we're trying to use that for a birthday party, an anniversary, a wedding, and we're being charged for it. So I called a lady, and I don't remember her name because I didn't write it down, and I told her, I said, when we donated that property, it was to be, the community could use that without being charged. So she told me, she said, not only are they charging what they did 2 years ago, but they've upped the fee on it too, and they live right across the street from the community center. So anyway, I'm here today to protest that they're taking that land that was donated for a community center and for the people of that community.
Can I ask if the community center is still it's still in operation today?
Yes.
And that this tower would not force that structure to have to close. It would still be usable as a community center.
But that tower that they're building, what they've done is done away with the helipad there. It looks like there's going to be a road from the Highway 2 going to that tower. A concrete road built there and access to that tower. So it's like they're just taking more and more land away from the community center when they've got this land up on 331 and 147.
We'll let the sheriff's department come up and speak to that if you're okay.
Sure.
Letting them respond. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the concerns, and I want to confirm for this board that this is not a taking. The intention here is not to take anything away from the community center. As I understand it, as I see it, the design, it does not influence the walking path. There was never a helipad there. There is no helipad there, an FAA-approved helipad. There was an area for a helicopter to land, and that still exists. As a matter of fact, there's an improved area, or there will be an improved area for a helicopter to land, because they'll be able to land on the road or the access way that we build into the site. And quite frankly, helicopters don't need that now. Our public safety, just for your awareness, the public safety, the Walton Air Rescue is under my department, under the Department of Emergency Services, so I'm very familiar with this. They land where they want. They land in the middle of Highway 98. They land in some of the sketchiest places that you wouldn't really want to see them land, but these pilots pull it off for the sake of public safety, to get people in and out of harm's way. So there's no risk to helicopters being able to land.
So your testimony is that this area over here would still be usable for a helicopter to land?
Or right on the road itself. Yeah, there's no obstruction to landing a helicopter in that area. And it's not a designated landing zone for our helicopter. If we have had helicopters land there before, it's purely opportunistic. And we would continue to do it that way. But there's no obstruction to landing a helicopter there. As a matter of fact, my testimony is that the access road that's going to go into this site will be an improved landing area over what's there now.
And the fence for the tower enclosure is all the way back at the 80-foot by 80-foot square for the tower, so there's free movement across the road that's being built. to
That's correct.
access it.
That's correct.
I had a question. This specific tower will benefit the people of Children's Home. So if an officer goes to the Children's Home community area to respond to a call. and
Well,
try-
that's an excellent point, because that is, you're precisely right,
I
it
mean,
will,
like,
and
it would go directly to benefit to the people of Children's Home if the fireman or the police officer was trying to
And-
use his radio.
that's correct. And as a matter of fact, that is one of the areas in the county where deputies and firefighters cannot reliably communicate on their handheld radios. They have to go to their car, which has a higher wattage, and can actually project a little bit more signal. So
Cell
if,
phone service is bad there.
well, every service is bad there.
Yeah.
This improves all of that. To her point about why we're not constructing this at 331 and 147 is that did not fit within the design of the system. It needed to be right there in Children's Home, very close to where we have it now. And we did look for alternative sites in that area. But if you go a half a mile away, you start degrading service. You start degrading the radio frequency propagation characteristics of that tower. So the ideal place when you put these towers is right where the engineers say they need to be, within about a half a mile square of where they're looking for it. That optimizes the signal for the entire area. So that was why, and because it was county property, that's why it got selected. And as far as it influencing the cost to use the center, this will have zero impact on a cost to
Yeah,
use the center.
It sounds like the issue of how that's being run is completely separate from
I
this kind
agree.
of stacking benefits
I
in the
agree.
community, so.
Yeah, these issues are disconnected, but we certainly don't intend to impose a fee to pay for the tower or anything like that. There's no cost associated with this.
And on your statement, right, the plan is set up based on the needs of the telecommunication network, and then the sites are found that are within the vicinity of what you need, right? Like it's structured that way. It's not find the sites, then structure out the network.
That's precisely right.
Okay.
At the genesis of this project, we had consultants and engineers design the project, design the system so it gave us maximum radio frequency coverage all four corners of the county. And so they built that system that gave us, to be a little bit technical, 30 decibel level signal loss. So they could be inside of a building talking on their portable radio, and inside of a concrete structure, like the buildings down in the south end along the beach. Right now, no one can talk on their radios in buildings, and Mr. Wells can attest to this. He's done that, his entire career. You don't talk in those buildings down there on your portable radios. That's a big deal. And you don't talk on your portable radio up in Children's Home. They have to go to their cars. So those are serious needs that we have to address. And I understand that these towers are what they are. They're tall, and by anyone's measure, they're ugly, but they are a necessity in order to keep people safe. But that's why we can't just go to an alternative site. And as far as the helicopter is concerned, this will not impact how the helicopters land and provide service to Children's Home.
Thank you very much. Come on up, we'll give you a chance to.
Question is, why did you pick that location to build that tower? Why did you not come on down? Why did you do it there?
Because
instead
there's a
of-
well here.
Well,
There's a testing well over there.
that serves what?
I don't know. I don't know what that did. Well, if it's a testing well, then it serves to test water quality in that district.
For the groundwater
with
table.
that.
For groundwater
people's-
testing, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'm not-
that's my assumption.
I'm not familiar with that, so show me where that is.
It's in this corner over here.
So this right here is gonna back right up to our property, come right under those trees, is what it's gonna do right there.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't understand it, because what did y'all do with the heliport, the helipad?
Well,
Where's it?
remember, as Aaron said a minute ago, you know, we initially intended to put it here. You see where the WildStar Tower is, we initially intended to put it over here, but through the planning process, we ended up having to move it down here. And there was opposition in the planning process to put it here, so we moved it here.
And we didn't even know that they were gonna put that little tower there,
I understand.
or we would have.
Now, though there is a potential for this tower to come down, because we can put that WildStar antenna on our tower. So and City Switch, who's building this tower, is working with them to achieve that. So one of these is likely to go away. This tower here is likely to go away.
Okay, so City Switch sent us a letter
Mhm.
asking about our property.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to talk to them, but they never got back to us. And I told, is it Mr. Hahn that's working on this, Hahn?
Patton, yes, Patton Hall.
The other day, I said, why didn't he call us? Because we own all this land, my sister owns all this land, my other sister owns this land over
I
here.
think there's already been testimony given as to why they chose to work on county, owned parcel.
County-owned property?
Yes, ma'am.
And so that they didn't have.
And would it benefit the board to know why we're trying to use county-owned property?
Well, I think
Yeah,
we've already mentioned that it's about saving lease fees for the
Right.
taxpayer.
Right, millions of dollars.
And
are
I
at
liked
stake.
where you put this on the site, because it's protected by that tree stand, it's wrapped by the existing trees there, so that doesn't appear to me that they would be taking down a bunch of trees to build this, and then the impact of that visually is protected by the trees that are there, so for the most part, it would be pretty well screened. And so from an architectural perspective, it appears to me that it's in the best possible place that it could be on this parcel.
No, it's like, once you give your land away to somebody, or donate it, or give it, or whatever you do, then stuff like this happens.
Well, and I would encourage you to resolve some of your concerns about how the facility is being used with the county, but I think this is a completely separate issue. This is, to me, is stacking amenities on a parcel that benefits the community.
Okay. Who can I talk to then about the community center? Name?
Danny Gladwell. He's the commissioner for this district, right? Danny Gladwell for Children's Home, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Wanda.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Motion to close public discussion.
Motion, close public session.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Sorry. Does anybody want to make a motion? Approve the variance.
I'll second that.
Discussion.
I think then
We covered all this. Yeah, I just want to reiterate that of all of the variances that we've heard on this issue, this one seems to me to have been cited in the most sensitive way possible, and I don't see that it impacts the use of that community center, and it's an enhancement of amenities that are stacked on this property. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay. You got your variance. You need to take a break? Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess. request to approve by final order. Are you Mr. Woodward?
No, I'm Steve Rhodes. I'm the pool contractor.
Got it. Go ahead.
Sure. Good evening, y'all. I've been doing this for 30 years. I only get to go to a couple variances, I think, in that time. This one's been interesting so far. Basically, I'm going to call it a series. It's my team, but it's on me. We submitted a permit application for the swimming pool. We thought we had everything lined up. We constructed the swimming pool, and then when we went to get it finalized out, we realized that we're in violation of the setbacks. It's a pretty, I'm not going to say it's an easy thing. We should have caught it, but this house is irregularly, it's not parallel with the lot lines, if you look at the images. And so we submitted something that was, everything was parallel and straight like every other house in the neighborhood. And we built off that. And then when we go to get our stormwater at the end, that was when it was discovered that we were in violation. And so I'm here requesting a minimal variance just to allow us, we don't have to go through the kind of the massive impact and cleanup and whatnot to bring this into compliance.
So it's slightly over the 15-foot setback and slightly over the 7.5-foot setback.
Correct. And if you can imagine it, if you take the lot and you straighten it with the house, we would have been perfectly within our boundaries.
It said on the thing, it was requesting 15 feet to 11 inches, but you just less 11, you go 14 feet, 1 inch is what you're trying to go to?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Just 11 inches into that setback and only for that small portion of the spa that's attached to the swimming pool.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 12-inch variance into the side setback and an 11-inch variance into the 15-foot setback.
And what would be if you didn't get the variance, what would be the resultant cost?
Resulting costs, I don't know because I don't know what the solution would be yet.
Okay.
There's a couple, I don't know. I mean, again, this is new territory. I mean, there's a consideration of probably modification of the swimming pool, but
And you've never had to modify a swimming pool before?
no. I have renovated pools many a time. I've never had to chop a corner off does that make sense?
That's what I was getting at. Like, what is the practical?
There's it depends. The spa is the problem one, the one on the rear setback. The corner could be clipped fairly easily. I say easily. I mean, it's demo saws and chop saws and redoing an interior. But the problem is with where the spa is, with that's the 11-inch that we're asking for. That's where I have a lot of plumbing, right? So then we're talking about rejiggering the whole system that makes that run. We're probably 20 grand or more. I mean, to make it, plus the disruption to the neighborhood and whatnot.
That doesn't include all the pavers and the coping that have to be remade.
No, I'm just
You're
talking
not-
about
that's not
the pavers. We're probably gonna have $4 or $5 grand there. Sure.
25 minimum.
Sure.
Does anybody have any questions for him?
So the pool was built in 2022,
Yes, sir.
and we're just, I guess my question is why is this just now coming up?
All right. Let's talk about pool construction real quick. So at the end of the project, we have to get a final inspection. By we, I mean the homeowners have to get a final inspection. Those get delayed all the time. Fences have to be put up, things get arranged. People don't call them in, right? And so we got at a point that we usually send a nice follow-up letter and say, hey, we need to get these things done. And so the Woodwards finally got to the point that they were ready to call in the final. And so we went in to get our stormwater done. And that's when this all came up. And so that was and we tried to work with the county for a couple other options, see what we could do. But this seems to be the option right now, is to see what we can do.
I don't think, yeah. Steven?
I just wanted to back that statement up. Just in general, we see that pools get built and then COs are delayed, sometimes never received until they're trying to sell the house, and then the title work comes back and there's an issue. So I just wanted to put that on the record there.
And there's not really any other way to resolve a setback encroachment for a pool other than to get a variance, correct?
Yeah, the alternative would be the demo and, yeah.
Yeah, there's not, your hands are tied.
Right. I mean, just because I mentioned it earlier, I am bringing forward some relief. I'm attempting to anyways with the director's deviation option that would probably allow for this to be approved in-house because of the degree of the encroachment. But yeah, until that's something that's in the books, this variance is really the only option.
And the Woodwards weren't the original owners when this was built, correct?
When the house was built, the Woodwards have owned it the whole time. They still own it now.
Yeah, current owners, but it looked like when I looked back at it that there was previous owners before that.
Oh, of the house? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the pool was built in 2022, the current owners bought in 2023, correct?
No, sir. The Woodwards have owned it the entire time. Yeah. They plan on keeping owning it.
You looked at the Walton, PA site, and so there may have been an administrative.
I was just looking at things, trying to figure things out for myself.
I don't have any more questions. Questions? Let the county come on up and speak.
Good evening. Jesus Navarro here. This is Woodward variance request to approve by final order, project number VAR 26000011. This is a variance application submitted by Southern Poolscapes LLC on behalf of 460 Seacrest Drive LLC, requesting a variance to reduce the side 7.5 setback by 1 foot and the rear east 15 setback, and that is a typo. That's instead of 2, it should be by 11 inches for an existing swimming pool on 0.24 plus or minus acres with a future land use of residential and a zoning category of residential preservation. The property is located in District 5 at 460 Seacrest Drive and is identified by the parcel ID in the staff report. May I enter the staff report in the record?
Entered. Anybody have any questions for Jesus? Yeah, I don't think the county can support the variance because technically it doesn't meet the standards, but go ahead and take a seat.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak to the for or against in the audience? Do you have a question? Who's it for? All right, come on up.
Yeah, sorry, I should have asked earlier, just thought of it. So, the spa,
Yes,
that's elevated from ground level, is it,
that's correct.
what is it, 3-4 feet high?
18 inches.
18 inches. And that's the piece that's 11 inches into the
Yes.
setback. How much of that spa, like 2 feet of it, 3 feet of it, 4 feet of it?
11 inches.
But I mean, how much of the?
Oh, along the
the
length.
length, yeah.
Yeah, it's along the length to one side, so it's 7 foot of water and 9 foot of coping or elevated area.
So all 9 feet of it are 11 inches in.
Well,
Or you
11
said
at
it was
the
an
grade-
angle though,
It's
right?
at an angle. It's
Yeah, yeah,
11
yeah.
at the greatest, and at one side I think we're okay.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I understand, thanks.
It's actually the pool that has the greatest encroachment, not the. Yeah, for me.
Do we need to close public
Let's close
discussion?
public discussion,
Motion
yeah.
to close public.
Everybody has had a chance to speak. All right, motion to close public discussion.
Motion to close public discussion.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Do we want to have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the pool with the variance for the side setback and the rear setback, with the condition that it be tied to the survey that we have, showing in just the affected areas of that survey and not just the entire property lines for the pool specifically.
Excellent. I'll second that.
You want discussion?
Well, I got a second it before we
Okay.
discuss it.
Oh, I'll second it then.
Yeah.
Am I not allowed to second?
Okay,
asking for
yeah,
a
I thought you
second.
thought you were asking.
I thought you seconded it, then.
Yeah,
then
am
I
I
did
not-
too, but
am I
then
not
it sounded
allowed to
like
second?
You're allowed.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the impact is very, very minimal to the surrounding neighbors and to the property itself. I think that it's unintentional. I don't believe that he did it on purpose. I think he was trying to work with the county. I believe he was diligent in trying to close out his permit, where some people just completely forget about it completely and just keep on trucking. I think the environmental impacts, the costs, the in and out, trucks in and out, to try to change it for the very minimal difference it would make is just not worth the trouble and the effort.
Yeah. I also want to point out that there is nobody here in opposition, and that's pretty surprising, actually. But normally we would stipulate that there be some additional privacy barrier or whatnot added on there, but I think in this case, the potential cost of the mistake made, clearly there was no intentional encroachment into those setbacks, and there was really no benefit to the homeowner by that happening. So I think this one's pretty cut and dry.
And I don't like pools either, but I mean, like pool variances, but still.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it is unfortunate. I mean, I just think that, you know, when you lay out a pool or any kind of structure, you know, you ought to lay out the 15-foot setback line, at least in the rear, and the 7.5 on the side. I just like the idea of some stakes and some strings, but that's just me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everyone. I think, and also Stephen mentioned that if they are to change the rules of how they operate, this would fall into the director's discretion, and it would be their view that something like this would be approved anyways. So I didn't want to reject one only to have the precedent later be set that it's actually not even needing to come before us anymore. It's just going to be a technical approval.
Just looking at it, I felt like this was
Paul, you good?
Yeah, I think it should be a director's decision over in Okaloosa County. They can give up to a foot, and that's been years ago. They could do that. And I think the director should be able to involve in this matter. But you can feel like you said, it can't really benefit anybody by moving it that way.
Right.
Clearly, like he said, if it would have been a square lot, or I think it's just a lot and all.
Yeah, Chris, it's a lot easier said than done to lay
Yeah.
out.
Well, you know, it may be, but, you know, I know, you know, when you look at property lines, you know, they have these iron rods, and and they're in the ground, and at least they are at my house. And, you know, you can, you know, get a surveyor in to lay out the property lines. And I think when you're putting something in as expensive and as sort of very difficult to modify as a pool, you'd be very, very careful to lay out those setbacks, because once you encroach and you know the construction's complete, now you're in for a world of hurt when you make a mistake. So it may not be easy to do, to lay out the proper markings, but I think it's absolutely necessary.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Got your variance? Seventh item on the agenda tonight, JMJ 525 Property LLC variance. Josh Ravick? Yes, sir. All right.
Everyone good to go?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm Josh Fravik, here to represent JMJ 525 Properties. First of all, thank you guys for your time tonight. I guess we're here to get some support for a variance request for 147 Magnolia Street in Grayton Beach. We are seeking relief from a specific local land development code requirement that kind of conflicts directly with the neighborhood, the Grayton Beach Neighborhood Plan and the federal environmental agency that protects the beach mouse. Also, in addition to that, we're asking for 3% extra or be taken off of our preservation requirements. I guess to get to the hardship we have for the first thing is the parking. So we're looking at building a house in Grayton Beach, but Grayton has its own parking that supersedes county parking. So in Grayton Beach, if you have anywhere between 2,500 to 3,000 square feet, you have to have 5 spots. Original plan we submitted to planning was 3,078 square feet, so they required 6 spots. So during that process, we got back and forth, and we realized that's a lot of parking. 6 spots is almost 1,080 square feet for parking. We submitted this to the Beach Mouse lady and Christy, who's been wonderful to work with, and her first comment was, how do we reduce that to save the beach mice? So after considering that, we reduced our footprint of our house, which I think is on the updated one. I don't know if you guys have that one or not, but I brought it with me. So it requires 5 parking spots. That's still 900 square feet of parking. That's a lot of square footage, considering the new interpretation of Grayton is that now this lot falls in a coastal dune lake zone. It's in the heart of Grayton Beach, right in the center, kind of where it forks off. They now deem the ditch that was dug by the county commissioners as a tributary. So going into all this, the 900 square feet is roughly a third of the true buildable area you can use for the lot. So 7,000 square feet divided by 40% is what, like 2,800 square feet. So 900 square feet is quite a bit for parking. And this doesn't really comply with what the beach mouse want. So that's kind of just a conflict of interest on that side of things.
Would you reduce the total square footage down to?
It
was 3,078 and you went down?
To 2,973.
Okay.
Then we also, for the parking, instead of having it all be concrete or pavers, we did parking strips. We proposed to the county that we would plant, and we talked to Christy about this, kind of beach mouse vegetation, or it's called a mimosa, that would go in between the parking strips to keep the preservation. However, you can't have preservation in between parking spots, we found out. So to avoid all that stuff, I guess where we're at now is Christy sent us a letter.
I have a question. If you're using a pervious paver, there's a 75% reduction to the impact of the site coverage. Did you use that?
Yes. So we're using gravel. So our impervious surface calculation is under 40%. Okay. We're at 20, or I think it's like 30 something percent. So we're trying to do everything we can to reduce it. However, you still have your overall impact of 40%. So the way a coastal dune lake zone works is that if you touch anything that's
50% of the clearing limits.
Yeah, but so that's the other thing. So there was a house on this lot already, built in 1948, that cleared the whole lot because the house is located in the back. So to backtrack, this house was built in 1948. The owner had the intention to preserve that house, but it was non-conforming to county standard. And the first thing it said, if you touch 50% of it, you have to move it out of the setbacks. So if we moved it out of the setbacks, we would be in, we'd have to move it. We got Ducky Johnson out there to give us a quote to move it. He looked at the structure and said, this thing can't be moved, it's falling in. It's uninsurable, all these things. So we're like, well, kind of have to scrap that. So continuing forward, the existing house covers 2,780 square feet with the parking way and the overall house. We're trying to build something pretty similar to that with our impervious, and we can't make it fit without having the extra 3%. So that's why we're here, is to see if we can get an extra 3% reduced from our preservation area, but we would still maintain all the open space between the parking pavers. We'd maintain all the open space around. And by looking at the land development code, open space is defined, could be utilized for a pool or whatever. However, I guess coastal dune lake protection zone, open space, you can't use that. So we'd have more open space if the pool is deemed to be open space, but the county is not identifying it that way. So what we're really trying to do with this house is preserve what we would deem Grayton's kind of neighborhood appeal. If the buildable footprint's only 1,500 square feet, the only resort is to go vertical. And when we go vertical, we'll be blocking sunlight, everything going to neighbors behind us to the north, which is an old cottage, the Hexagon cottage that was bought and renovated. And then the neighbors to our north, they have a weird pie-shaped lot that sits on there, and then we would block all that over there. The other item that we have to add to this, because we're in a coastal dune lake zone and we're under the impervious, is a stormwater plan. So now that can't count for preservation, because once you touch land, by county definition, it's not preserved. So there's a lot of things that make it hard, even though the preservation to me, or the stormwater plan, is helping the ecosystem. So those are a few things that I think that makes it a little bit difficult in this situation. And I understand it is asking for an extra 3%. However, this code has not been enforced on any of these lots. So for example, Grayton Oaks was bought by the county commissioners in 1979, and they dug that ditch to alleviate flooding on Pine Street. There's a house that faces, or actually its address is Grayton Oaks. So a car is parking over this tributary. So it's been touched multiple times by the county and humans that I think have shaped the water flow, which good for alleviate flooding. And then the house next to it put a retaining wall in the tributary, which again, in tributary standards, you can't put a riprap or anything inside the tributary because that's man-made structure. And then continue on further, this same house footprint on 375 Defuniak is the same impact and the same distance to the tributary that was approved and never had a problem. And I know that doesn't grant me a variance. However, there's houses on 176 Magnolia Street within 300 feet of this that a 4-story house was built, has back pavers, pool, 8 parking spots, less than 30% of preservation space, and that was approved. So I guess my biggest thing of coming here today is not to have like sympathy. It's just purely trying to get an extra 3% that would help us maintain an average size home with 2,900 square feet. The family has 4 children, so you need at least 5 bedrooms minimum in there. And really the idea of this house is to maintain the Grayton character. Kind of with this house, it's going to be all kind of a wood, natural siding, things like that is what we're planning to do. Cedar, oak, things like that to maintain the appeal. If you drive down Magnolia Street, you can tell the houses next to us, there's a bunch of 1 to 2-story cottages with front porches. We're trying to maintain that. So that's kind of why we're here today, if you guys have any questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
Was he still needing a parking variance? He moved it to 5?
Yeah, we reduced it to 4. So it would be from 5 spots. We originally asked for 6, reduced our ask to 5.
This
and
is a reduction from the Grayton.
It's Grayton stuff, yeah.
Neighborhood overlay.
Correct. So our 4 spots is what the county would require naturally. So
900 per square feet.
yeah. So we didn't want to go below that and think, okay, we want more. It's just if the county had standard practice, that's what we were trying to go for. And Christy, who she said she'd hop on a call. I just texted her. She's out trapping mice or out in Seagrove. But she said she'd hop on a call if you guys had questions. She provided me an email letter I submitted in the packet. I don't know if you saw that, but she pretty much just stated, is there any way you could reduce the parking and footprint? So we took that upon ourselves to do parking strips and then to shrink the house down to 2,900 square feet.
If you went to 2,700 square feet, you could go down to 3 parking spots.
Well, that would be by the county code, not by the Creighton neighborhood plan. 2,500 to 3,000 requires 5.
Yeah.
So even if we shrink it another, 300, 400 feet, we're still in 5 spots.
So at 2,900, you're at 5 though, right?
Yeah.
And the old parking standard used to be based on bedroom count, and you've got 6 bedrooms in this house that would have required 5 parking spaces under the old standard. So this is clearly a vacation rental.
No, it's the house is meant for his family.
Dude,
This gentleman's never he's owned property in Grayton before. He never rented the house. But I understand what you're saying, so I'm not trying to disagree. But
tearing down an old house to put back a 6-bedroom house in Grayton Beach, it's a short-term vacation rental. But whatever. The parking count, I would say, just based on the bedrooms, should be a minimum of 5. So you've got it currently showing 6 parking spaces on the site plan, but you're over.
we redid that to the 5 here to represent that. I don't know if it was.
Can we get a copy of that? Because
Oh, yes, I don't know if I have enough, but
6,
I'll
so that may
provide.
help.
It was, the ones in our book were showing the larger square footage.
Yeah, I updated it, but I don't know in the portal, but it was never.
He said he dropped the square footage.
Yeah, so when you went down to 2,900, that got you to 5 parking spots. And that freed up some
So
vegetative space.
Yes, correct.
Or pervious surface, yeah.
Yes.
How many kids did you say you have?
4 kids.
How old are they?
They are.
Range, you don't have to give me an exact age.
One's driving 18, 16, 11.
High
I
school
think-
and under.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you go to a Grayton, Grayton Beach governmental body and request 4 parking spots?
So I talked to Billy Bezette, who's the head of it, of the neighborhood plan, and he was in support of this because he got the same variance for his lot to get this done. The other hard thing about Grayton Beach is that all these houses have been built that since it's changed from the rule of the right of way, right? So if you go in Red Bar, in front of Red Bar, all those cars that park on the side of the road, that's not their property, that's the right of way. So what we would have, the right of way, we have another 10 feet of right of way or 12 feet between the road and the property line. So the house across the street, they don't even have it into their property. They park in the right of way. The people next to us park in the right of way. So the hard part is now that these new rules come out that if there's not a storm and there's a governor act, you can't rebuild in Grayton because it doesn't meet the land development code unless you come and get a variance. And that's what we tried to do originally with the cottage. The other house he did was a 1940s cottage. He brought it up to date and didn't tear it down and didn't rent it. He's never rented a property. So his whole intention is to restore Grayton to what it is. And the hard part is he doesn't want to build a 3-story box or a 4-story box. But at some point, when you have $1 million lot, or, you're going to maximize it. I mean, who's going to go buy $1 million lot and put a little, 1,500 square foot house? And that's where I think the rules I understand the intention. You don't want all the parking and all that because it's a rental. But at some point too, you're not accounting for the beach mice protection tier 1 that you have to get or you can't even build. So Christy, if she won't write me a letter, I can't go build because I have to sign an affidavit to the county. So Christy's letter here, can you reduce the parking? My answer is going to say, no, I can't because the county commissioners didn't. She spoke multiple times and now we're in a standstill. And like I said, this is the other thing too, which I think is a little hard is when this was adopted in the Land Development Code, these agencies didn't appear to be contacted to decide increasing this or not, right? Because it's a conflict. So every time that someone goes and gets a permit in Grayton and the beach mouse lady says, I don't agree with this, does the county supersede that? You know, that I don't know that answer. I've never been here before. So that's one question I guess I have is, how does that rule then? If you guys don't approve it and we put 5 spots and we fit the criteria, is that going to be fine? Or how does that work, I guess?
Yeah, I think the federal actually takes precedence because.
And she has her letter right here. I printed it out.
That people were building without getting any Fish and Wildlife approval whatsoever. And then they ended up coming to the county and saying, wait a minute, you guys aren't, you know, collecting this letter from us before you're issuing a permit. So I do think that is critical to being able to build in this section of Grayton, is having that approval.
I mean, also the other thing I would just, not that it matters for me, but other houses, because I know Richard Soper, who I also spoke to, owns a house in the area. His house is historical, but falls inside this new tributary, which is now deemed a coastal dune lake protection zone. So a lot of these houses that are weird setbacks or have, you know, garages in the back and all these pavers, they won't meet the preservation requirements because they've destroyed that before this was adopted. So I think there's a lot of things that not just for us that maybe Grayton has to take a look at as well. And I don't want to change anything, but I think this will, if we can't do this, I respect you guys' decision. I just think that these are things you have to look at, because if there's not a storm, there's no governor coming in saying, hey, the county can't come in and, if DeSantis were to make a rule in the storm, he can say, hey, county, this supersedes the county rule, right? But if not, then these cottages are gonna have a hard time being built back, or they have to come get a variance from you guys to be in compliance.
And I think if I heard you correctly, right, if there's no variance, then the alternative is to go vertical.
Yeah, I mean,
which seems like it might be a bad outcome for the people that live touching that property.
Yeah, and that's our last thing we want to do. And I think the biggest thing is the front porch, the style of home that this gentleman has done before. I mean, it has been an old remodel and it's fetched good money, so it's not like it's some, cheap built box. It's really trying to preserve Grayton. So I think that could be there, and I hope you guys can see that. We're trying to make it work.
Got the revised drawing.
You want to see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I get a copy of that?
I know, but
Can you just?
sorry.
That will be
Applicants Exhibit A.
And then I don't know if you guys have copies of the original, but this is the original house, how it's situated on the lot.
We got a copy of that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Make sure.
But you can see how it's all the way in the back. So technically, if we go, demoing the house, nothing's going to be preserved on the lot to get to it to demo it.
Okay, so this design with 5 parking places meets the 40% lot coverage. Right?
So that's where that's 40%. However, the hard part is then the preservation, because you have to have the parking spaces, no matter, even if you did pervious pavers and GeoGrid, you reduce ISR, but that space is still by the county deemed non-preservation. So that's where the interesting part is, building outside of non-coastal dune lake zone. You can use ISR and play with your impervious surface ratio. But in coastal dune lake zone, which I think is a gray area, and I've talked to my environmental scientists and all that too, and they debate it, but I'm not here to debate that with you guys.
The point is you're getting rid of vegetation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you put in 5 parking spots and that house that you just handed out to us, you're down at 47% instead of 50.
Correct. So we need to be at, or 57% would be our, or 47% would be our preservation space
Right.
on the lot, not including though, open space.
Yeah.
So if another 10% is open space as well. So 57% of the lot would still be green or beach mouse territory.
But the rule is,
Yeah, yes, correct. 50%.
with your 5 parking spots and your house and your driveway and your pool,
It's
you-
50%.
now you only have 47% of non-preservation space, or of
Of preservation,
preservation
correct,
space, and
correct.
53 of non,
Yes.
when it should be 50-50.
Well,
Non-preservation.
40% coverage, 10% open space.
Yes,
50%. Yeah.
I got it.
Sorry. I'm
Yeah,
just-
so the 40 and the 10 combined to be 50 of,
Yes.
of non-preservation
Correct.
space, yeah. And there's no way you can find 3%. What about a smaller pool?
Yeah. I mean, that is an option, but if we shrink that even to, we shrunk the pool, but like I said, if we shrink the pool more, I mean, we're saving 100 square feet,
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
not
still
much.
going to be,
Yeah. What is the number? What is that 3% number? Square footage? Just a good estimate. Are we talking 200, 300, 400, 500 square
it'd
feet?
be about,
What is the 3%?
yeah, about 300.
500,
It's
yeah.
500?
about 500.
So
Just, I ran.
But
those
also
numbers.
think about it, like, we
that
can't.
that would be the
but-
entire pool, basically.
But also think of it from the standpoint of, in the coastal dune lake protection zone, it's required to have stormwater. We're in X, we're impervious. So the county normally requires stormwater pond after you go above 40%.
Yeah.
We're below 40% of our impervious surface, and we still require a stormwater plan. So that's 112 square feet by having to dig it down and put a back deck on, because that's where we have to put it. So 110 square feet out of that, or 116, or whatever the calculation was on the sheet, would be taken off if we didn't have to do that, but we have to do that. The pool, obviously, I agree, you could take it out, but at the same time, I think pools now, I wouldn't say now, but
Pretty hard to rent a house without a swimming
well, not
pool.
renting, but I feel like people in Florida, it's like, back in the day, you could get a pool done for $20,000. Now they're $80,000. You know, everyone wants a pool in the house. Just COVID and all that stuff changed, you know? But yes, you're correct.
Yeah, I just kind of trying to
I
get a
understand.
sense of it, you
Yeah.
know, like, instead of just 3%, what does it really mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we also looked into doing stormwater underneath the parking area. So we saved that space as well, to try to alleviate the back deck as impervious, because they're like, dang, that kind of stinks. It's not counted in our preservation requirement. So if we could throw that in the parking that's already there, that's an option too.
So the stormwater design is a swale underneath the house?
No, it abuts the back foundation that's covered by, that has the stormwater detail on the side where the porch
deck.
is. It's kind of built in like I wouldn't say retaining wall, but it's deep swell
I see.
with a deck over it.
Got it.
Because the hard part is if we go too long with the swell,
Basin.
it now eats up more space, and it's like, again, I'm really not here to try to, get all crazy. I mean, the rules are the rules at the end of the day. I just feel like the determining of this tributary, which has been fought in the past, and it's brought to my attention, that's a different place to argue the tributary. So I had my environmental scientist who did that. That would be my next ask, is this has been fought before, I guess, or not been upheld. So that would be my next thing, is to determine where that tributary really lies, and then figure out from there, if that's even an angle to go at on this property as well.
They do something in Grayton not long ago. One come in front of us about.
We have heard a reduction to the parking requirement in Grayton that Christie came and spoke in support of. She was actually into the meeting. But I've got some other questions for the county. So if you don't mind, we'll give you a chance to come back
Yeah,
up.
that's
And
fine, yeah.
Bridget, is this one of yours? I guess I have a quick question. Can the zoning board of adjustments even grant a reduction to the preservation requirements in a coastal dune lake protection zone?
It says in the code, in no event shall the zoning board of adjustments increase the allowable vegetation clearing and impervious area to more than 53% of the portion of the parcel within the 300-foot coastal dune lake protection zone.
53? So we have the right to give him this variance that he's asking.
53 maxes it out, and that is in the comprehensive plan, CM-1.1.1H.
Perfect.
Thank you. That's great.
This request to approve by final order, project number VAR 26-000012 is being reviewed by myself, Bridget Clements. This is a variance application submitted by Joshua Varvik on behalf of JMJ 525 Property LLC, requesting a variance for impervious surface ratio, which is 4.02.03F, and parking requirement, which is 5.02.03 Grayton Beach and Gulf Trace neighborhood plan areas off-street parking requirements chart on 0.16 plus or minus acres with a future land use of residential and a zoning category of residential preservation. This property is in District 5 at the address and parcel ID listed in the staff report. Can I please enter the staff report into the record?
So entered.
So I guess the two main requests was the approval of a variance from section 4.02.03F. Specifically, the vegetative clearing within the preserved area shall be limited to that which is necessary to accommodate the 40% impervious development that is permitted. And then also the parking chart from chapter 5, 5.02.03, which when the staff report was created, and as he said, he changed his site plan, but when this was created, the site plan did have a 3,001 to 5,005 square foot, making it 6 parking spaces. Unless other evidence is presented to the contrary, the requested variance does not appear to satisfy the minimum requirements of section 1.1603 of the Land Development Code.
Thank you very much. I have a question for you.
Yes.
The parking spaces that are shown in the side setback, do we also need to consider that as a variance?
So I did not bring that. We looked at that a minute ago, and it said,
Yeah, I'm getting to it right now. So the
Just-
parking standard in the Grayton Beach neighborhood specifically references the active code at the time from March 28, 2000. So they would be held to that previous standard that would allow, yeah.
didn't write that one down, so.
We can grant them a variance up to 53. The parking can stay in the side setback, and so it's really about reducing it from a required 6 parking spaces to 5 parking spaces.
And then, as a result of the variance, if it is approved, the preservation would be reduced from 50% to 47%.
I thought he was going from 5 to 4.
Well,
This is 6 to 4.
it goes from 6 to 5, because there's 4 stacked and then 1 off to the side.
I was just asking because of what's written on here.
He's at 5. Yeah.
Request before, we reduced it to 5 after we talked to Christie.
He wants to go to 4.
But the minimum necessary to get to the preservation of 47% is, you can still meet it with 5 parking spaces.
No, so on that chart right there, so on that new one, we submitted that to Bradley and we've been going back and forth. The 4 spot would be it's for Christie. So she sent me the email that I submitted in the file saying to reduce the parking down. So, but
Only have 4 parking places.
yes, she's saying it's, again, because in the new rule, I mean, you're aware of this, I'm not trying to, it's, you can only have a 20-foot right-of-way to enter the property. So if you go, you'd have to wrap all the way around the front, and 20-foot wide spots, you can't fit them all. So even if we move the house back, sorry.
Yeah, but the pictures of the existing structure show it's already been cleared and grassed over with sod, and so you have 0 preservation in the current build. And so this would actually be increasing habitat. So usually when you get an FWC permit, you say I'm going from 0 mouse habitat to now I'm increasing it. You're actually increasing the mouse habitat with this design.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that statement. Yes.
Christie would likely approve 5 parking spaces, but you have a letter from her in here from.
Yes, I brought a copy of it that I submitted. It was in my file, but I don't. Here, this is.
I don't recall seeing her letter in this packet.
I didn't see.
At 4 parking spots, you still need a variance to get to, you still have 47%? You're still at 47%?
No, I think he's.
Are we?
If you.
Yeah, so because,
remove-
all right, so what happened, that's what I was gonna say. So then the buildable area, the workman area that they require, so it's not just 50%, you have to have a 3-foot buffer around the house to build, or the work area that can't be preserved.
Yes.
So you add another 680 square feet around the house.
Yes.
That's not preserved because people worked in that area.
That's
put
why
ladders.
she wants you to go to 4.
Correct.
Okay. I forgot about the buffer.
Yeah, sorry,
The
that's-
construction buffer.
So the letter says, can you minimize the parking on the ground footprint of the actual impact? And this was back on February 12th. So this drawing that you presented with the 5 parking spaces is already a reduction from 6 to 5. So you've addressed her concern of reducing the parking.
Yeah.
From what you presented to her.
Can she call in? She said she'd talk to you. I literally just talked. She's trapping mice right now. So I told her if she could come. She said she'd try to make it, but she's trapping mice out in Seagrove. She said she could call in. She'll speak to it. She said she's happy to do that.
How does that work? Do we allow that?
We had a thing where they could do virtual.
Back during COVID, they had
Yeah.
virtual, but
I think we voted not to do it.
I don't think we can
Isn't
allow
it-
Christie to
Yeah,
testify.
I believe the policy was that we had to have a visual of that individual so they could be sworn.
Hayward, she could FaceTime over, right? I mean, it's no different than a person standing in front of us. We're not pulling IDs.
Well, I think,
And swear her in, obviously, but.
right. So, I mean, I don't know if she's able to. I mean, I want to take a break and see if she's even available. Otherwise, I mean, the board does have the authority to continue this, to get that information if it deems it relevant. Obviously, we're here tonight,
And
so.
just to enter one thing, I talked to Mr. Bizette as well, and I told him about the reduction of parking from original 6, then went 5, then to 4, because we had to account for that 3-foot buffer, and he was in support of it. He said he was going to write you guys a letter, but I don't know if you ever received the email or not, but he was also in favor of it as well. So I went to multiple channels inside the Grayton Beach plan to get their blessing before we did that as well. So I guess to answer your question, if we have 5 spots, that our house will still not work because we have to have a buffer added around it. So the 3-foot workable areas of 680 square feet.
On the lot coverage issue.
Yeah, and yes,
So
they're intertwined.
the 5 parking space, we could grant a variance to the preservation requirement because you meet the 40% impervious. And then you could be given the variance of 3% on the preservation requirement. And you've already reduced the parking from 6 places to 5 places, which I think is appropriate for a 6-bedroom house. And so, you know, having done numerous conservation enhancement plans for Christie and our firm, I would argue that what you guys are doing is actually going to be increasing the dune mouse habitat from what's there, because it's already destroyed. Like it wasn't an empty lot with scrub oak trees. It's lawn.
Yeah, there's a house already in the back,
highway.
the southeast corner, correct?
Yeah, so when you're done, the argument would be that this new structure would be an improvement.
Write a contingent variance. Be 5 unless.
Well, and I mean.
Well, so, I mean, in all honesty, if we can't get down to the 4 with Chris even knocking us down even more, then that plan I have to you will not work.
One of the things that I would recommend is elevating the house on piers instead of a slab, because one of the other issues with the mouse is that they would be able to then move, you know, under the house. But the benefit to that is that you could put your stormwater retention under the house without having to build this vault structure that
The house by coastal dune lake standards can't be a backfilled stem wall, so there's no it's open space below.
Well,
So there's flood vents on it.
I've got this drawing in the file that has a
Yeah,
slab on
well,
grade. So
a lot of the things that I updated though, or I guess did not either get conveyed or I didn't enter them properly. However, by coastal dune lake protection zone, you can't have slab on grade or backfilled stem wall from what Bradley told me. So everything's up off the ground. So that's so it is not going to be a slab on grade, I guess, to answer your question. So that was they're looking at what I mentioned before is the stormwater either be underneath the house or in the parking space because it's already going to be impacted area.
Yeah, I mean, if you're already raising it up, then I would eliminate the 4-foot deep vault that you're having to put in and store the water under the house.
Well, before we did, we've had plans before we put under houses in the county, maybe it was subdivision related or not. They didn't seem to like that much.
They don't, or they historically have said they don't.
And I think not to add one more thing is just, I think the parking itself, I think this item is going to be something where this process is going to be required for a lot of houses inside of Grayton in the future. Just from the standpoint of building back, replacing, remodeling, this is all going to come into effect. And so I think with that in consideration and talking to Mr. Bezet, that each of these cases has to be decided by what historically has Grayton allowed and how many spaces were there on the original house for what was there. And I think in the drawing, the sketch is that its impervious surface is 2798 with everything. Our house, driveway, we're a couple hundred square feet more than that, and we can't build that. So our impact from the old structure of 1948 to what we are now is pretty equivalent, right? So I think having that also in determination in our minds of not building 2,900 square feet, I guess to some people is a big house, but it's not as big as some other people have gone inside this same setback from the tributary. People have 4-story homes, 3-story homes, culverts over the tributary, things like that. And that's a pretty significant ruling for the coastal dune lake, and that's the heart of Grayton. So, and you think of that when Defuniak Street, when you drive over it, that affects properties east and west. I mean, Wade Wilkinson, who owns 357, his family built that house back in 40s, 50s. If he ever wants to remodel that house now, he's going to be in a coastal dune lake zone. He's right on a alleyway and everything, and he's going to have a stormwater plan. He's going to have the same things I'm dealing with. And then to build back something, his garage have to come down. So these are things that, it's not just for me, I think it's also a lot of other houses. And I think a lot of people would be put off by the variance request and just go vertical. And I think that's not preserving what Grayton is. And so that's, I think, the hard part of where we are is that, do I want to build a 3-story, 4-story box? No. But if this is the room we have to play with and those are the rules, then that's the only other option. And that's, I don't want to go that route. No one wants to go that route, but you guys can only change so much, and the rules are the rules. So those are our options. So
I have a question. Would you feel better about it if you spoke to Christie? I think she's a government employee, so I would feel good with her testimony via phone as her being, you know her, so you could certify that it was her, or talk with her.
Would that,
Would that alleviate any of your concerns?
you're talking about tabling this till next month?
Well, I mean, I'm just getting her on the phone and talking to her over the phone.
FaceTime or something.
We're already
Feel
here,
better
so.
about it if you were to speak with her. 'Cause, I mean, like, from my standpoint, she's not just a member of the public. She's like an important member of the public to this specific issue, and a government employee who's not going to just bend the truth willy-nilly just to help somebody. I think she's going to address the concerns of the agency she's
And-
hired to work for.
Let's see if we can get her on the phone.
okay, I just messaged her, but the other thing too is that meeting with Christy, I was one of the few people that actually have met her at the property, and not to throw the county on the bus, the whole process the county was doing was just send an email to this, send a letter to this email, and you're good to go, and sign this affidavit. Well, I got hit with that's not all you do now. You got to go through this whole list of stuff and go through schooling on beach mice, pretty much. So I met her out at the lot. We walked through it all, worked with her on our plans multiple times up February, but I told her we'd shrink the house and work with her on that. And we've gone our way to meet her, drive her off, do whatever we had to do to make sure that what we're in compliance with. And that's why I told her she come up to the county and let's get collaboration, not independent bodies that you're emailing and getting conflicting info on. But I'll try to call her right now. FaceTime or a call, or let's see.
I think we heard FaceTime was the way to do it.
I'll call her first and then FaceTime first.
Is there anybody else that wanted to speak on behalf of this project? Good night, y'all.
Any member of the audience that want to speak on it?
Yeah, I think he's the last person here that's or you're still here.
One thing that might help me, if we can kind of just clarify for me what we're trying to, approve or disapprove here. So I know that we're asked for a variance to go from, 50% of, should not exceed 50% of vegetative clearing, and the request is to go down to 47% of vegetative space. So 53% of clearing versus 50%.
That is correct.
Okay,
And
so let's just say that's correct. One. What else are you asking for? I know it has something to do with parking.
the parking requirement on there.
Parking requirement's a Grayton Beach thing. Am I mistaken?
Correct, but that's what I talked to.
Part of the land development
Yes.
code.
Right.
Because it's an overlay district.
Right.
So we would theoretically have the ability to reduce the parking requirement.
So we could tell Grayton Beach 4 instead
They
of
don't have an
6.
HOA in that sense.
Right.
It's an overlay district that's
Right.
incorporated into the land development code.
Okay. I see the chart here, and they're saying for 2,900 square foot house, Grayton Beach requires 5. And so the variance request is to go to 4 from 5 that's listed on Grayton Beach's chart.
That is correct.
Those are the two things that you're asking for us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So the way Grayton Beach calculates, that's conditioned square footage. So the footprint of the house was that, yeah, well, I can't read any of those.
It's
dimensions.
30 by 61 is the house footprint,
Yeah, so you have 1830 on the ground floor.
plus the deck of like 164, so it's 7 by 27 is the front porch.
Well, that's not, that
That's not
doesn't affect
conditions.
parking
Yeah,
though.
that doesn't affect the parking.
32 by 34.
Plenty of buffer between now and last meeting.
So
Yeah, so that's the
He- he's
conditioned
still-
area
is
parking
five.
spaces.
So you're asking for
So they did shrink the house.
something we're authorized to do if we choose in terms of the vegetative piece.
Yes, sir.
And I'm hearing that we're authorized by our position to go from 5 to 4 if we so choose.
Well, she hung up because I didn't answer. Sorry.
Try
Christie
again.
called back, so my
shoot.
apologies.
This,
Hey, Christy, how you doing?
Hi, good.
I'm here at the meeting right now, and I guess they wanted to FaceTime. Are you able to FaceTime or talk? I have Jeff, Charles, Chick to speak.
Sure.
All right, FaceTime, does that work? How do I do this?
Hayward will do it.
All right, this is the Mr. Hayward, the
Attorney.
yeah.
How's it going? Do you swear from
Public safety.
Okay, I'm gonna hand you off to Jeff Kidd so you can put you by the microphone.
Hey, Christy, I really appreciate you taking this call tonight. I'm now the chairman of the Zoning Board of Adjustments, and we are in possession of some communication about reducing the impact on this site so that we can minimize impact to the beach mouse. And so the current design was reduced from 3,136 square feet to 2,900 square feet, and from 6 parking places to 5 parking places. And we have the ability to give them a variance that solves some of their preservation requirements. But the site was sort of damaged or cleared, the existing house and the grounds are all kind of grass now. And it was my position that the new development would actually be an enhancement to the beach mouse habitat. Are you wanting them to reduce the parking even further from 5 places to 4 places?
That would be preferred as much as possible. I might be going through a little dead spot here, but if reducing it as much as possible would be preferred, because then we're gonna ask them to restore back what is damaged or, not damaged, but what is impacted during construction.
Okay.
And then kind of preserve that as they're living there to, as a conservation area.
Okay, so they would have to provide a restoration plan as part of that as well?
Yes, yeah, and there, with this landscaping plan, I've looked at some of that too. And told them that we would still work on that, in the future.
Okay, so four parking spaces is your recommendation?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, that is all we needed you for. Thank you so much. All right.
I didn't realize it would still be going.
Yeah. As you know, it's a thankless job. All right, thank you so much. Good night, Christy.
All right, thanks.
Take it easy.
All right, bye.
are you satisfied with her authenticity? I mean,
Well, yeah, so
that's her.
she obviously has a firm grasp of the issues specifically regarding your property, and she has requested a further reduction, which I think is important because there are a lot of people that develop in Grayton Beach, and the parking was put in there to minimize the size of the houses. I actually think that this meets the intent of sort of building smaller scale houses in the neighborhood, and were it one of my projects, I would probably have done the maximum 40-foot height limit.
I thought was we were trading height for some of this other stuff.
Yeah, so I think that the testimony from Christie was pretty beneficial to your case.
Thank
So,
you, Jeff.
Did we enter the staff report into the record?
Yes.
Perfect.
We did.
County have
Does anybody
anything?
have any more questions for the county? We'll give you the last word if you need
He wants
it.
to say something, she was saying.
Yeah, Bridget, are you good?
Questions, but if that's resolved, I can,
Good? Okay, thank you.
thank you.
All right, do you want to say anything else, Josh? You think we're good?
You want,
You're good.
you want
Okay.
to limit, you want to
Motion to close public discussion.
motion to close public discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, who wants to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance request, and it would be to increase the impervious surface to 53%, which would be the preservation being reduced from 50 to 47%, and to approve the request to reduce the parking requirement from 6 parking spaces to 4 parking spaces.
Would you make it towards this new site plan, not the old site plan?
That's probably correct, yeah, since the old one had 6, right? Or I guess to go from 5, well,
5 to 4 would be the
5
new
to
plan.
4 on
Yeah.
the new plan
I think we probably should use the
record.
one that was in the public notice for the hearing.
Yep. So let's just go from 6 to 4. Yeah.
Okay, but they're like, the house would need to be reduced also, and that's.
Yeah, from 31,
Yeah.
18, was it?
We could say, yeah, and then, well, I guess do we make it, the condition being that the house was decreased from 3136 to 2973?
904.
Oh, I had 2973.
Oh, yeah, well, with the house, the pool, the porch.
Okay.
Does anybody want to second that?
I'll second that.
And just so I'm clear,
For
so
discussion.
I've got the variances and it's conditioned on the size of the home.
Do we say that it's conditioned on, or should we say it's based on the representation that the
Well, I think
total
if you-
condition area is
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out, like, what's the verbiage that would be,
I think we would say just based on, like, we're granting the variance based on the the fact
well,
that.
I think what you would do is, the idea is variances run with the land unless
Yeah.
they expire. So if
Yeah.
this was ever sold and somebody else
Yeah.
wanted to come in, right, and tried to expand the footprint in some form or fashion, so it sounds like we want to just keep it to that. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, but now I'm worried that if people saw us reducing from 6 parking places to 4 parking places, there would be some blowback.
Then why don't we just say that it's a 4 parking spot requirement and not give it the, where it came from, or just say, you know,
Well, we do have to show that you're varying from the code or a
Uh-huh.
section of the code from
Yeah.
X to Y, or that's normally what we
Right.
put in these orders, so
Could we-
15-foot variance down to
So,
10-foot.
having said that, I think it makes more sense. I mean, we can enter this into the record. We did, right?
Yeah,
It's in the public
It's
record.
a
The new-
applicant's
the
exhibit
design.
A, the
There may
revised.
be less blowback if we say 5 to 4 based on what's now in the public record, based on this second plan that's, you know, one of our exhibits. We go from 5 to 4 on the parking. And then we grant what we can, what we're allowed to grant, that 3%, you know, variance in the preservation area. Or
And
whatever
then
it's
that,
called.
and I'm fine with those particular points. I was just trying to clarify, were these variances conditioned on something related to the
I
structure?
would
or
not do
Okay.
I don't, yeah.
Because the planning department would have to be involved in any expansion of the property, and they would find out at that point that there was no additional square footage that they could impact.
That's fine. I just wanted to make clear, so when I try to draft this.
It could be, would it be, we would, since we've entered this, then technically, we could just say that materially changed what was on this staff report on the total condition. I mean, we're not making it run with the house, it's running with the land, but just, that was the premise of our change, right? Is 5 to 4 based on the new exhibit that went in.
Yeah, I think that's fine as it relates for context on the parking and why it is that way. I just was, as I said, I wanted to clarify that there was no additional conditions that were being placed on this.
Yeah,
So if that's clear, then I'm
And,
fine. just
and it's
doing
more factual because we aren't going from 6 to 4, because 6 is not a requirement, at least not with the new 2,900-foot house plan. We should talk about what's reality. The reality is it's a 2,900-foot plan.
That's what I was trying to get to when saying change, at least I guess the premise being the total conditioned area was X amount of square feet and now it's not, but not making it contingent to run with the.
Do you want it to expire if it is ever torn down? Or no?
I think given the fish and wildlife permit, that it should run with the property.
Okay.
All right,
Got a-
we have a
I'll
motion. You have
second.
a second?
I'll second it.
To
Discussion.
discuss? You
I
good?
think,
I think we've all aired this
discussed the
one
heck
out
out of
in
it.
All
in
right.
its entirety, and special thank you to Christie. And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, you got your variance.
motion to approve the minutes.
From the February, the thing's wrong. It's February, what was the date? 2026? Says January on the book. February 23rd.
Motion to approve the minutes with that.
You don't have the February minutes, I don't think.
Oh, it is.
We're a little bit
We're behind.
behind.
Oh, okay.
All right, well,
I
motion
thought
to,
we had done the January last time. Okay.
motion to,
Okay.
I have a question. I can't vote on this.
No, it's fine. You're allowed to, no, you're allowed to vote on them.
Oh, I am.
Yeah.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, just because you miss a meeting doesn't mean you can't read the minutes and, well, I know, but I'm just saying, like, even if you missed it, you can vote on the minutes.
Yeah. I can probably do a better job, but.
You upset with that or happy with that? The mouse guy.
Well, I was looking at the applicant, JM5. That is a personal residence.
Yeah.